Alright, I've got two things. Let's get through this. Don't remember what this is, but clearly it's something I ordered from Right Stuff. Sorry, from Crunchyroll. Oh yes, Bubblegum Crash on Blu-ray. Because I don't know if the thing I got through Kickstarter included that or not. So I just figured, yeah, why not? Why not be thorough? Make sure I've got it all. And why don't we begin with that, since I already mentioned that. You've already seen the thing, but yeah. We've got Bubblegum Crash on Blu-ray. I would assume this is an Anime Go release. Yeah, there we go. Anime Go. So audio, you got English, Japanese, and Castilian Spanish. Huh. 2 hours. I see 3 regions there, so it's just open to everything. It looks like an invertible cover. Pretty cool. Next we have Chillin' in Another World with level 2 cheat powers. Regions A and B. It's an English dub and Japanese with English subtitles. Hero, villain, chillin'. Different underneath the slipcover. We've got disc 1, disc 2. I think it's kind of fun. There's other characters in the show, of course, but they're kind of the ones that you follow and want to follow. So, neat stuff. Princess Principal, Crown Handler, Season 3. With hands. Alright. This one's region A only. English dub, Japanese and English subtitles. Movie and special features. So, Tale of Two Heirs. Straightforward release, I would say. I don't know much about the show. I don't think I watched season 1. Anyways, last but not least, Shangri-La Frontier, season 1, part 2. With regions A and B. You good trash game hunter. English dub, Japanese with English subtitles. Different underneath the slipcover, which is always good. Excuse me. Let's see. Disc 3 and disc 4. And then characters. Alright. I'm definitely curious about more of the show, but I don't know. Well, I guess Crunchyroll probably remembers how late I watched. Anyways. Here's this week's physical anime collection update.
Okay, let's go through the stuff. So, Apothecary Diaries, obviously I finished season 1 last week. And this week I've caught up on the dub for season 2. I don't know if I'm going to go further or not, but I did watch episodes. That's episodes 25 to 36. And at the very beginning, very first episode, I was like, okay, am I going to watch this and it's going to feel different? And thinking that made me think, does this feel different? I wasn't quite sure, but giving it more episodes, it's actually been quite nice. Can't say I have a good feeling for how the pacing compares to season 1. Like, I kind of had a rough idea when I watched season 1 how the core 1 and core 2 felt compared to each other, but I don't know, watching this stuff here, quite entertaining stuff. The beginning after the end, episode 2. Let's see. So like I said, the thing that seems to be making this show good is that it feels like it's a good personal experience. A kind of redemption arc sort of story for our main character who, you know, the first episode gave some of that. Second episode gives a lot of that too. It ends with an interesting little cliffhanger that has me quite curious. So, overall, I'd say good second episode, too. The Two Perfect Saint, episode 2. Let's see, I think this is the one that's like, okay, the follow-up we definitely wanted from the previous episode. About the only weakness I'd say about it is not really knowing how this show's going to be like long-term. So you kind of hope that episode 3 will give us that, and so we'll have to see next week, but I'd say it's still off to a pretty good start. I think it established... So it's interesting because I'd say from a... it's just interesting to compare it to Gorilla God's Go-To Girl. Because they both kind of did the same thing with their first 2 episodes, just kind of in opposite hands. So like, of the first 2 episodes of both of them, they both have an episode that's about how we are playing with the theme, the kind of thing, and the other one which is kind of establishing the status quo to a certain degree, setting it up. And I think the first episode of Two Perfect Saint is a little bit of building the world and understanding of things, whereas the second episode is where you kind of see more of the, I guess, the premise that our main character is the perfect saint and what that means. And interestingly enough, since I'm talking about Gorilla God's Go-To Girl, episode 2, I sort of felt like it was the opposite. Episode 1 had some good, funny moments with our main character and what it means to have been blessed by the Gorilla God. And I don't feel like we got as much of that in episode 2, but I thought episode 2 was still pretty good because it's now saying, okay, we've got that, now let's start building the stats quo. And I think both of them take the end of episode 2 to start building that, and both of them now need to just show in episode 3 what do we get by continuing to watch these shows. And that can make the difference between, you know, a great episode 3 versus a okay one. Or maybe the shows will suck, they'll just have really good beginnings but then do nothing with them. That's not out of the question, but I'm hoping for both of them to be quite entertaining this season. Brilliant Healers, New Life in the Shadows, episode 2. Why the fuck could this not have been the first episode? I mean, it's still got its flaws, but I feel like this established a lot of things about our character so much better. The pacing felt a little strange. Like, maybe just a tad bit too fast and then the right pace throughout this episode, but it didn't... Like, the characters are just like, in episode 1, are just like, oh, why are these wastes of breaths still here? You know, this one was like, okay, yeah. And it, while there was some portions of it that were a little on the nose, like I said, the second part of episode 1 was, it was much more brief, but just temporary setup. Some of it is, you know, kind of convenient for our main character, but I don't think that's out of the question for a show like this, and I thought it played around with the setup of stuff better. Now, whether or not this is going to be good long term is really hard to say because, you know, I feel like the shows waste some valuable setup time such that I'm not sure if the next episode will properly give us a feeling for what does it mean to watch this from an episode by episode basis. And I guess I didn't mention this, but episode 1 did have some brief, really good fight in it. I thought they did some really good animation choreography stuff for a brief period of time in that one. And I thought this one might have had some good stuff in it as well. Some other mediocre stuff, but I think the right kind of mix of stuff that was entertaining to see. Anyways, the point is, the show's a mess. And episode 1 does not do a good job of selling it. But, episode 2 is definitely better in my opinion. Mostly because I feel like it did more of what episode 1 should have done. And it's not like episode 1s like this haven't worked in the past, where it's just like, we're just going to give you a sneak peek into the future of what this show's going to bring you. But usually when they do that, they bring something that's at least good, if not great. And that one was a little worse than mediocre, because just a couple things make it infuriating. But, yeah, we'll have to see. Episode 3 would be this week, so we'll see what I say next week. I want to pronounce it Tegonia, episode 1. Weird name. A bit of a mix, but I think it's off to an okay start. So one of the things is, like, I didn't know if it was just a fantasy show or if it was supposed to be an isekai. I didn't think it was supposed to be an isekai, but it turns out it is, but it is so in the most subtly set up way possible. Where our main character just has memories, but not memories of being that person. He just kind of has memories of that world, and so he kind of is like, I think the show would have been really good if they played some of their hand more subtly. If he was like, I remember rice bowls, and they never just tell us, oh yes, he's having dreams of this other world. If they just then said, oh no, he has dreams about magic, and wait, magic doesn't exist in this world. I think that actually would have been better. It's not too bad that part's on the nose, but the thing I didn't like is when it comes down to, okay, he wants to try magic. I guess when they eventually reach the part where they make him do it, they make it respond to him saying, fireball, and it's just like, I don't know, you had a good idea going on there. The execution could have been better, but I say all that, but it's at least an intriguing setup and off to an okay start. A strange start, but an okay start. We'll have to see where it goes from there. Based on the opening, it looks like it's planning. It's got certain things planned, but yeah, we'll have to see. I've been killing slimes for 300 years. I maxed out my level. Season 2, episode 2. I guess some amusement. But I mentioned before that season 1. So I had trouble finishing season 1 when I first started, and then I managed to binge watch all of season 1. Now I'm here watching season 2, and I'm feeling that same, I don't know if I'll be able to keep this up. I'll give it a 3rd episode. Probably, and then we'll see what I feel after that. But I guess, like, the show isn't supposed to be one of those ones where, okay, there's an obvious goal here, but I guess even for the meandering, just chillin' sort of stuff it does, it's not quite, I guess, tickling my itches, so to speak. So yeah, we'll see. One more episode. Let's see, next up, From Old Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman, episode 2. And, the show, I think, has some of that similar element from the first season where it's like, the first episode where it's like, how fortunate that he keeps running into these former female students of his who have had the hots for him, even though he's a billion years older than them. They haven't seen him in 5 to 10 years, depending on the person. It feels a little contrived, and it still manages to stay, I think, just good enough where the thing that was nice about this episode was I think we got to get more of an impression on why they still have such a high opinion of him. And I think it actually feels believable and makes sense. So this episode had a lot more history to it, and then a setup at the very end for whatever's going to happen in the next episode. And I don't know what the effects of that are going to be, but I guess we'll have to see. Interesting enough. Next up, The Unaware Atelier Meister, episode 3. So this is the 3-episode mark. And it may be entertaining. It's really hard to tell because some of the fundamental premise is sort of entertaining, but it doesn't feel like it makes sense in the world, whereas Villager from High Level Boonies, Last Level Boonies, Last Dungeon Boonies, Villager from the Last Dungeon Boonies goes to Starter Town. That one at least had some sense to it. This one, they gave a little thread of something, but at the same time, it still is like a little difficult to swallow, I guess, but still kind of entertaining. So it's really hard to judge based on these 3 episodes. I'm probably going to be able to keep watching it, but yeah. And I already mentioned the Gorilla God's Go-To Girl. That was a nice episode. Yandere Dark Elf, She Chased Me All the Way from Another World, episode 2, which is okay. I guess we saw something that feels a bit more yandere, but I don't know. It just sort of is. It has fan service, ecchi, bouncy stuff, including our main character. So while the main character seems to be built like a prepubescent, a middle school boy or something like that, that classmate was definitely not. Weird stuff. Not the first anime to do that, but yeah, I don't think we're expecting much of substance to it other than, a plot. And then, last but not least, Sword of the Demon Hunter, episode 3. So, it was hard to tell what to make of the show based on episode 1, which was really long, which in itself should have been considered 3 episodes on its own. This being the actual 3rd episode may be pretty good, because it does give us a pretty good idea of, I think, what kind of show it wants to be. It's not saying, okay, this is one where, oh, he goes to an area and then he has another fight. And he goes to an area and he has another fight. It wants to show that it's deliberately going a little slow is not the right word. It's going at a relaxed pace so that you deal with the characters, their interactions, their world, and it's actually quite nice. And episode 3 didn't even end whatever story it just started, because I guess they kind of knew either they sold you with episode 1 maybe, or maybe episodes 1 and 2, but I think this one is good because I think you have a pretty good idea what it's going to be like. Like I said, that's its personality. It's got an end goal, but you're kind of gonna chillax in moments of time while the character's there taking in the world, whatever he sees, and it doesn't feel like he's doing stuff that's irrelevant to the final goal. But yeah. Anyways, I guess that's everything there. Is there anything else worth talking about? I guess the new Dead by Daylight event started. It started last week. Entertaining enough. Maybe not the most balanced, but I think kudos to Behavior for trying stuff that are really just new mechanics. I know people have asked for like generators where you have to go and pick up the parts for them, and this is kind of like that. You have to gas it up with blood, which is a weird thing to gas up a generator with, but the entity's a little confused sometimes. But yeah, I'm not quite sure how this would be balanced with other stuff that the killer may or may not be able to do, but entertaining. Tome 2 just unlocked tonight, so I guess I'll be doing that very shortly. I can't think of anything else to really talk about, so y'all have a nice week. And I guess it's Easter this Sunday, so y'all have a nice Easter.